We are in love with our episode today because it's about first loves and how our first loves impact the rest of our lives and our relationships.
Do you remember who yours was?
Of course. You never forget.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of
We're Not Fine.
I really think about my first love, and I think it was my ex-wife.
Oh.
Because that was real love.
20. How long were you guys together?
Oh, my God. I was in a play, and she was my makeup artist, and she spilled the spirit gum from my mustache all over me, and we laughed so fucking hard. Then I went to prom with 3 different girls from 3 different cities.
Like you weren't together yet. All at your school at the same time?
No, different
It was the first
schools.
quadruple?
No, I went to 3 different proms in 3 different
Dimples,
towns.
man.
Yeah. Anyway, good Lord.
Okay, but first love, is it your first? Well, I mean, it's your first love. You got married.
My real love.
You guys are still
We're
best
still
friends.
incredibly best friends. One of our mutual friends recently said, there is nothing that will come between the two of you. And that is true.
It's true. And nothing has. And you guys have been through a lot.
Yeah, we co-parent together. We are best friends. She is one of my biggest supports and vice versa.
Okay, but that you're bringing up a really interesting point because, of course, like I've been with Rob since I was 20 and I'll be 48 in a couple of weeks. And so that is like, he's my longest love and my forever love. But like the first love for me was very pivotal.
Yeah,
but no one is ever going to, like if something happened with Rob and I started dating again, nobody could ever reach the same level of knowing each other, I don't think, as if you've been with someone for like 30 years. But that's different than first love. So we're going to focus on first love today.
Yeah, I have so much to say about this very topic. Like we could go on and on about what is a first love. Like, is it lust? Is it puppy love? I guess that's the phrase that people have used.
I don't think so. I think it is real fucking love. And I think that we need to take our teenagers' loves seriously because it changes you. It's real.
Yeah, for sure. So let me read this right in and then we'll go from there because, this is going to go on and on. This person writes to us, I'm struggling with an emotional dilemma. I'm currently in a healthy, loving relationship with my partner, Sam, and we're thinking about building a future together. It's just that I can't shake off the memory of my first love, Emily. We dated years ago during college, and it was my first real experience with love. Our relationship did not last, but the feelings I have had were intense and formative, and sometimes I wonder what could have been. Was she the one that got away? God, I love that question. Can't wait to talk about it. Despite the fact that we both have moved on, Emily is happily married now with kids. I occasionally find myself reminiscing about her and the time we shared. It's not that I want to rekindle anything or that I'm unhappy with Sam. My question is it normal for a past relationship to hold such a cherished place in my heart? Could this potentially be a problem for my current relationship with Sam? Am I focusing too much on the past? And can that subconsciously affect how I am in the present? I value happiness in my current relationship above all, but I can't help wondering why these memories linger. Your thoughts and insights would mean a lot.
No, first of all, I know, I love that so much. And I feel like when everyone thinks of first love, their heart is probably warmed because it is so real. And the question is, and you're asking really good questions, right? And again, everything is not a one size fits all. But I'm wondering, when do you think about Emily? Like, how much do you think about Emily? Is it when you're not feeling connected to your partner? Is it when you, I don't know, have some unmet needs? Or you remember how you and Emily were like young and fun and footloose and fancy free and you didn't have to, take care of kids or a house or buy groceries. And it was just like you remember having a different quality of connection. Is it something to do with missing that in your current relationship? And when you're not feeling connected, is that when you're missing Emily the most? But if it's like
as a distraction to that conflict, right?
And also a distraction, and it's dangerous if you live there and you don't address it in your real right now relationship, and you start to feel like you're not present, you're fading away because you're, reminiscing and thinking about the past, and it's keeping you from being present. That's one piece I think about.
For sure. And I want to put some quick spins on this. I think that love is defined differently for everybody as well. And I'm kind of going to go back to that because I think there's in love and there's love and there's all different kinds of love. And I think when we're first kind of loving somebody, are we really emotionally mature enough to be in that type of relationship and make it work? And that's why sometimes when people get into relationships and they get married at age 16 or 17 or 18, depending on culture, I have a little bit of concern. Like, have you really, really learned who you are?
Right.
And for some people, 100%. I have a dear friend who has been married to her high school sweetheart, and I think it's a beautiful relationship. But I want to talk about that a little bit. So when I see people from my past, like there are people that I've been in relationships with that if I saw them, they would probably give me the finger because of, how that relationship ended or whatnot, regretfully. But I also will tell you this. I cherish and I encourage this person to cherish every chapter of their life. I really think that we should look back on every experience we've had in this life and see it as a chapter of our life or a puzzle piece of our entire life puzzle and really cherish that moment. It is never going to go away. There is nothing that you can do or say or think that is ever going to take that experience with Emily from you. And I encourage you to embrace it. And it's interesting because you kind of say, I don't want to leave my relationship. I'm really happy in my relationship. Emily's moved on as well. So can you kind of just embrace what you had and be so grateful for it? And there are times when, loves in my life have not worked out, but I cannot be more thankful for every single woman or man that I have dated and loved who has given me a part of my experience to make me who I am today. Because, the important part is that you love who you are and you do that work to love who you are. I'm also going to suggest something about past relationships. We tend to, of course, remember the positives and not the not positives. There's a reason why you and Emily are not together, right? I don't know what led to the demise of that relationship or why it ended, but it wasn't perfect. And the two of you were young. And so, all kinds of pieces might come into play as to why that relationship ended. But it's very likely that we remember the positives, even during a breakup. I have found myself, but also working with clients who, but remember that we had this experience and we both did this and we both had this. And I remember this about them. And I remember feeling that way and looking at them and the color of their eyes. And I always want to say, do you remember the color of their eyes when they were really pissed at you and you had all those fights?
Nobody remembers that.
Nobody remembers those horrible parts.
But again, that comes up when you're feeling disconnected in your relationship now, or if you're lonely or achy, you only remember.
Or depressed or anxious or overwhelmed or whatever it is. I think that's the part. And you have to remember, like, that relationship. And I really wish for this guy, like, he talks so beautifully about Emily. Remember that memory. Consider it a chapter of your life book. Like, I think we all have to, take a look at that and really cherish it and know that it was real and it made you who you are today. And it made you able to love Sam. It made you able to choose Sam. And I do think that we take those experiences and we build on them. Like I can easily say I've had relationships where I'm like, I don't want to do that again. And I know what those red flags are and I'm not going to do that again. Like even that, I'm grateful for the a-holes in my life. I dated a narcissist for a while and I didn't realize it at the time, but it was the case. And I'm grateful to be done with that person. But I'm also grateful for the experience because I'm not going to do that again. Like I know what those flags were. I know how I felt when I wasn't getting what I needed. So I don't know. I think you kind of raised this interesting comment about like, is he happy in this relationship with Sam for reals?
For reals.
And I find myself wondering, like, is there stuff you need to work on? Is this satisfying? Because this romanticizing of that relationship with Emily can really just not be based in reality. It might be based on kind of the fantasy of what that was. Also, I think some people fantasize, I'm not one of them, fantasize about what life was like when you're younger.
Right.
I like my life now, so I don't want to go back.
And you had a glow up. A life glow up.
I did have a glow up.
But I do think it's impossible to compare young, simple love with adult love, where you're tackling a whole bunch of
parenting
hard
and finances
together.
And home. And
it's really not super like sexy and spontaneous and footloose and fancy free. And that's real. So is she the one that got away, or are you missing the simple living?
Those are all really good things. I want to talk about imprint theory.
Ooh, bring it.
Because this is kind of what we're talking about. So I'm going to actually comment on specifically this research conducted by a woman named Nancy Kalish, a professor of psychology known for her work on lost love, found that many people who had reunited with their first loves report intense feelings.
Yeah.
Kalish concluded that these experiences, and I'm going to read this, are incredibly vivid and formative because they occur during pivotal developmental periods of our lives.
There you go.
And what I love about that is that when we're young and we are highly influenced by people, and when we start to have sexuality and we start to have feelings and we start to have all the things that come with adolescence, and I look back now and I think to myself, if everyone was healthy at that time and made good choices in who they went to prom with and dating with, but it's an experiment. Like, we have to kind of put ourselves out there. We have to date skater boys at First Avenue at age 14 and have a fake ID.
It was all ages.
Was it? Okay.
But I was smoking some weed. I was not perfect.
Was it legal at that point?
No, definitely not.
All right, I'm going to call the board.
I'm definitely not.
Yeah, I mean, right, developmentally, we really have to think about when we're most vulnerable and when we're most impressionable.
It makes so much sense.
Doesn't it?
Yes. And I think about also neuropsychology and neurophysiology. I was looking at this other article from the Journal of Neurophysiology. But what it finds is that if you are recalling nostalgic memories, it lights up the memory. It's like lights up your dopamine sensors in your brain, and that it increases these feelings of social connectedness and well-being, and it makes us sort of a happier person. It's like, I know that they've done research studies in neuropsychology about even like your brain doesn't really know the difference between if you are, I don't know, training physically for a marathon or if you're picturing it or slaloms or whatever. It's like if we're lighting up the dopamine centers in our brain thinking about a beautiful memory, how could that be bad? Well, the only way it's bad is if it starts to feel like it's taking you away from the present.
And I'm going to make two comments. One is even this person I was referencing who married her high school sweetheart, is one of my best friends. And she's come to one of our podcasts, our live event. Hello, Kelly. I love you so much. But when I saw Kelly at the live event, it was like 40 years later and not a thing had changed. Like I had an immediate connection with her and she was entirely imprinted on my experience. And I want to go to, interesting enough, I want to go to high school class reunions about this.
Oh, wow. Yes.
I don't go to them. And yet I think to myself, wouldn't I be fascinated to go to one of them and kind of see where everybody's at? Because those 12 formative years that we spend with people are fascinating to me because they're really integrated. We have a lot of experiences. We have a lot of memories, whether it's gym class or recess or field trips or just, the classes that we took with people. I'm really fortunate one of my best friends is someone from third grade. When my family moved, we were put next to each other, and my dearest amazing friend Sue from Boston is still in my life in the closest of ways, but she's been such a part of my past, and it's so amazing that we can kind of share those life experiences. I met my ex-wife in high school, so I have these really long-term relationships that I'm grateful for. Darren, my friend from college, we were put together as freshman roommates, and you know Darren really well.
He's the best.
You know all these people.
I do. Well, except for Sue, I haven't met Sue.
You got to meet Sue. She's a gem. But here's the thing that I think, all of these people, including my friend Kelly, who came to the event, and we shared a lot of things in high school. We skipped school together and went to Valley Fair. We were homecoming king and queen candidate together. We were friendliest of the senior class together.
I know, it's so cute.
Isn't it? And she's just adorable. She is one of the sweetest people. And the reality is when I saw her, she's totally imprinted in my life. I had flashbacks of memories. I got really emotional when I saw her. Yeah. So these intense emotions that this researcher talks about are so real, right? And so I love all of that. But it's not surprising that those developmental times where you're figuring yourself out and you're going through adolescence, it's really normal to have that intensified feeling.
Be present in every chapter of your life. Yeah. And that does feel like the whole point here is to make sure it's not overshadowing your present. There is a difference between nostalgia, which is good and it lights up all the good feelings, and fixation, which might be a little bit like obsessing and spiraling. And there are a couple reasons why that might be happening for you that have nothing to do with your present relationship. You might just not be really happy in your life right now, or you might not feel desired in the same way, or you might not feel connected. But the idea is you want to understand the context of why that relationship was so meaningful for you. And if you could even bring your partner in with like what Doug was saying about communication and just be like, I've been thinking so much about this relationship, not because her boobs were perkier and she spent more time with me doing these things, but because I remember this time in my life, or I really missed this one thing that we did and I'd like to incorporate it into our relationship. I don't know. There has to be, if you could bring your new partner in to why you're thinking about this time in your life and why you're thinking about this person.
I love how you said that because that's really it.
That's it. Bring her in.
Being able to communicate about what you're experiencing is going to be critical in any relationship about any topic. But this particular person who writes in, I encourage you to talk to Sam about your experience and what you're thinking about Emily. And really what the goal is to not only share what you're experiencing, but to talk about how that impacted you and how it currently kind of translates and manifests in your current relationship. There's no question that Emily is a pivotal block in, again, your puzzle and your relationship that you've built now in your life experience. And I'm really, really loving that. You know, what's interesting is I think about people that I had like crushes on or that I didn't even date necessarily, but that we explored it.
Yes.
Like I can think of a friend of mine that, you know, we contemplated dating. He was struggling with possibly he's bisexual and, you know, should I explore this with you? To this day, I have incredibly fond experiences of that. Like it was like very flattering, number one, but yeah, really amazing memories. These people are forever in your chapters. And so being able to share those experiences, I know what else I would say. Like when I have people who are like on their first dates or second dates, I'm like, open the fuck up your conversation about your past relationships. Talk about who you've dated, how those relationships ended, what was important to take from those relationships.
Yeah, how they impacted you. That's the important part.
Yeah, it's not only in the positive way too, it's also the negative.
What you've learned.
Again, the guy I last probably spent a significant amount of time with is someone so bad for me and still contacts me, weirdly.
You learned a lot.
10 years later. I learned a lot and I'll never do it again. And I'm free of that anxiety and tension and constant dissatisfaction. So we learn from those things. And when I feel that now, if I'm on a date, I'm like, out. I'm not interested. This is not the right attachment for me.
And maybe also to be thinking about, I'm pretty sure there are parts of you, friend that wrote in, that you miss. And what if you start to pay attention to the parts of you that were showing up in that relationship, maybe in a way that they're not showing up in this relationship, but that's still yours. And maybe you need to figure out ways to, I don't know, reignite that part of you that you miss. Even if it is freedom and spontaneity and life has you weighed down, that doesn't mean you still can't light that part of you up.
And again, don't get stuck on the loss of it or what was.
Or
cherish what it was.
Yes.
Love that you had that experience.
Yes.
You know, I have a situation in my life where there was some potential for something really amazing. It didn't work. It isn't the right time. It isn't the right circumstance in this life.
Right, that happens.
I will forever be grateful for feeling that possibility and that connection to someone. I will always be grateful. I don't feel a loss somehow. It doesn't feel like something that I wish I still had. It's more like I'm so grateful to have felt that again. And I've shared that with that person.
Maybe it is your view that I feel grateful to be in the present.
Yeah.
And I'm learning, like whatever doesn't work out makes a good story or makes a good lesson, or I can make meaning of it.
And age, I think, and developmental, that's why this imprinting stuff is so important that this researcher did. You know, it's about developmental places too. I'm no longer of an age where I'm going to dwell on something that can't happen or doesn't work.
But a lot of people your age do continue to dwell. That's like that's psychological wellness. It's a person, you know, doing their work and realizing what's important.
You know, and the thing maybe that we need to conclude with as well is it's okay to seek out therapy. If you continue to struggle with this, if it continues to feel like it's intrusive or you can't let it go, like you just said, some people still ruminate on their past. I think we learn from our past and we understand how it manifests in our current circumstances. And I think that's what living an honest life and that's what therapy is all about, is figuring out how our past impacts our present and making sure that if we don't like how it's impacting our present, we do something different.
And I will say, I mean, of course, everyone knows how much we love therapy and how much we think everyone should
Yes.
Go to therapy. But it's the idea that you can be stuck in a certain way of thinking about something. And then all of a sudden you have a collaborative experience of processing your life about maybe really vulnerable things that you've never shared with anyone, or you share them with friends that have a take that's very like you-centered, or like I hate women, or I hate men, or this is what worked in my marriage. And it isn't this like a neutral person that their only agenda is your wellness. So something to think about it. Something to think about.
I love the question. It's a really common experience.
Yes.
Thank you for writing in.
And we hope you got value from this episode. Again, we're Dr. Talia Jackson, Dr. Talia Jackson on Instagram, Douglas L. Jensen with an EN, and We're Not Fine Pod. We also have some fabulous videos on TikTok because we have an amazing, brilliant editor who is from a younger generation. Thank
and
you,
social
Dig.
media person. Yeah.
No, that's what I was talking about. Our editor, Alex, is literally spectacular. We actually don't look like this at all. He's just making us look this good. But Doug really does have a bleeding eye nodule.
It's kind of sparkling though, so I think it's working. Anyway.
You're sparkling.
And go to we'renotfine.com, no apostrophe. And if you have any questions for us, anything you want covered, we appreciate everyone who's written in. And we would be delighted to cover any topics that are of interest to you and anything you want us to talk about. We'd glad to share our humble opinions.
We're so humble. And if you like us in a way that is visible to the world. Like, subscribe, comment.
Thirsty?
Thirsty much? Write a comment about how much you love me or Doug and I.
Oh.
You know, the feedback that's not my favorite is when people are like, will you guys shut up and get to the point?
I love that, I reframe that a little bit. Like, people love the deep guts of our conversation and don't want to hear
less
about
us. Less us, more
don't want to hear about my
the
eye.
meat. You guys, we love you, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.
This podcast represents the opinions of our hosts and guests. The content here should not be taken as medical advice and is for informational purposes only. This podcast also does not establish a standard of care, doctor-patient, or client relationship. No guarantee is given regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on the podcast or website. And because each person is so unique, all listeners are encouraged to connect with counseling and medical professionals for assistance with their personal journey. All people, places, and scenarios mentioned in the podcast have been changed to protect the privacy of those involved.